What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. And first and foremost, before we get into today's topic, just want to remind y'all of a couple things. Hit that subscribe button, hit the post notification bell, because as we all know, football season is coming up. It is right around the corner. So the content is getting ready to start ramping up around here on this channel. So just want to give y'all a quick reminder. If you haven't already, if you have already, I very much appreciate it. If you haven't, just make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that post notification bell. It doesn't cost anything. Just, costs about 2 seconds of your fingers. That's all it costs. But I'm here today because the Atlanta Falcons have officially broken training camp. Training camp is officially open for the 2025 Atlanta Falcons. And it's a really exciting time of the year because it's really time to get back into that football groove. After a very long off season, the Atlanta Falcons are finally back. The NFL is back. Football is back. College football is back. High school football is back. Football is back, and I couldn't be more excited for it. And today I'm here to talk about 5 things that I think could make the 2025 Atlanta Falcons special. Now, when I'm talking about the 2025 Atlanta Falcons being a special ball club, you may ask, well, what are you necessarily talking about? Well, I think first and foremost, what comes to mind is making the playoffs, doing something that the Falcons have not done since the 2017 season when Matt Ryan was still the quarterback, making the playoffs. And I think a lot of people, whatever you take about the Atlanta Falcons, whatever you say about the Atlanta Falcons, you cannot dispute that the Atlanta Falcons have talent on their football team and have been accumulating talent for the past several years. And eventually, it's time for that talent to, for lack of a better term, crap or get off the pot. And the Atlanta Falcons in 2025, and it feels like we've said this the past few years, but I feel like especially this year with where the team is, how the team has been built the past few off seasons, and really the investments that the Falcons made into their long-term future this offseason with the draft, it is really a crap or get off the pot season. We need to see results. It's no longer just talking about the talent. It's talking about how it can contribute into results. And that is what we are here to talk about today. So let's get started. And I think the first thing that is clearly going to really determine the fate of the 2025 Atlanta Falcons is the play of Michael Penix Jr. at quarterback. Drafted 8th overall in the 2024 draft, Michael Penix was brought in behind Kirk Cousins last year. It was a very controversial pick. It was not a pick that really many, including myself, was a fan of. But as we saw down the stretch last year, it is probably what has saved the franchise to this point. And I know we're talking about we need results, but think about where the Falcons might be right now if we did not draft Michael Penix. And I think we all know the talent that Michael Penix has, but that needs to contribute into results. Now, Michael Penix is a very experienced quarterback compared to a lot of other quarterbacks coming out of college. But at the end of the day, the NFL is completely different than any other level of football, and I think we know that. I think seeing Michael Penix get those 3 starts last year is beneficial to him, and we saw in those 3 starts him show a lot of promise for someone who was flustered in the last 3 games of the season. And some of those spots, really important spots for if the Atlanta Falcons were going to make the playoffs or not. And I'm going to go ahead and tell you, yeah, the Atlanta Falcons missed the playoffs last year ultimately, but it wasn't because of the play of Michael Penix by any stretch of the imagination. Especially when you look at that game in Washington. Michael Penix let the team down 4th and 13 to throw to Kyle Pitts to tie the game. He did not lose us the coin toss. The coin toss, as we all know, it just is what it is, and he doesn't play defense. But it also feels like a conversation we had in many years with Matt Ryan. So it kind of feels like one of those things, well, how can you even have a special offense if your defense isn't really doing anything? We're going to talk about that in just a minute. But obviously, it is going to start with the play of Michael Penix at quarterback. And I really think when you look at a guy like Michael Penix, he is not necessarily a project that you would say a J.J. McCarthy is. Or you would even maybe say a guy like Bo Nix was. Michael Penix, if you really are looking at his draft class, might have been one of the most pro-ready guys to come out of that 2024 draft class. And that is why I think you can put him in a situation where entering an age 25 season, you can maybe put some of these expectations on him that you necessarily wouldn't do a second-year quarterback. Now, you can't expect Michael Penix to come out and play like an MVP. But if we're talking about the Atlanta Falcons being a special ball club and being a ball club that doesn't just make the playoffs, but could potentially make a playoff run in a wide open NFC, Michael Penix, when you really look at the type of quarterback that he is, he's a gunslinger. He can sling the ball downfield, and we saw just in those 3 starts alone, him make some insane throws that we didn't see Kirk Cousins make. Hell, I don't even think Matt Ryan could make. So there is no doubt that the arm with Michael Penix is there. I think the big concern with Michael Penix is the accuracy and is also him staying healthy. Now, you always got to knock on wood for health, but I feel like with the offensive line that the Falcons have, they can protect Michael Penix. Michael Penix is the type of guy, he is a gunslinger, and I feel like with where the Falcons' offensive line is at, even though there are some concerns about pass blocking, they are going to give Michael Penix an opportunity to scan through that pocket and make the quick throws. And when you look at the chemistry developing with a guy like Drake London, with Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier in the backfield, when you look at a guy like Darnell Mooney, and you even look at a Kyle Pitts entering a contract year with a lot to prove, the play of Michael Penix at quarterback could really be set up to be special in 2025, considering the second-year standards. Not saying he's going to win MVP, not saying he's going to have no 5,000-yard season, but he is set up in a better position than most young quarterbacks are entering the league with all the talent. And that's going to lead me into the second reason. A perfect storm that is brewing on offense. And I especially think this is noteworthy because both Kyle Pitts and Tyler Algier are in contract years. And you really got to think, when a guy gets into his contract year, he has a lot to prove. And you always see guys come out in their contract year, and that is when they put up their best numbers. A guy I look at actually was Austin Hooper back in 2019. Austin Hooper was a guy that, for several years was kind of, he was present in this offense, but in 2019, he really took it to a different level with Matt Ryan as his quarterback, and he was able to get paid a pretty good amount that next offseason. And really after that, Austin Hooper kind of disappeared. 2019 was kind of the pinnacle of his career in a contract year. And I could give you many other examples of guys doing that. Now, Tyler Algier, I think Michael Turner made a really good point when I think he went on 680 The Fan and said this. He said, it's in a way almost like the old San Diego Chargers backfield, where Bijan is LaDainian Tomlinson. He is the playmaker. He is the flash. He is the superstar. But Tyler Algier in many ways was like Michael Turner in San Diego. A very gritty running back, took some of the wear and tear off of LT in his earlier years, and is definitely good enough to be a number 1 back in this league. But the Chargers were not going to pay him to be like it. So he came here to Atlanta and really helped with those first few years of Matt Ryan. And I could see Tyler Algier really looking to follow a similar script this next offseason. So that is why I really feel like in 2025, you have to maximize your potential and make it worth it. because Tyler Algier is absolutely going to play hard. He's going to be making a statement for the Falcons or whoever decides to give him that money. And then Kyle Pitts. And Kyle Pitts, I'm going to try not to spend too long on him because I think we know the story by now. But the bottom line is this. Kyle Pitts, he is pretty much not just fighting for his career on the Falcons. He could very well be fighting for his NFL career this year with how he comes out and plays. You're talking about a guy who was a top 5 pick, the first pick of the Terry Fontenot era. And this is a guy who, after making the Pro Bowl in his first year, has really disappointed ever since. Granted, he has dealt with injuries, but it really doesn't feel like he has been putting in much effort. And this year, he has to come out and he has to give results on that field. He has to be helping this team out, and he really has to maximize his production if he is going to get that payday that he could very well get if he does maximize that production. And all of that, when you combine the fact that Drake London is also going to be paying to probably be a borderline $40 million player, which we're also going to have to talk about at a later date. When you talk about Bijan Robinson really just hitting his stride, and you also talk about other guys like Darnell Mooney and even a Ray McLeod, and then once again, we go back to the play of Michael Penix at quarterback. It could really, really make the 2025 Atlanta Falcons special, especially with where this offense can go this year, with basically what could be a perfect storm brewing of guys getting ready to produce, play their butts off, because let's be honest, we all want to get paid, but we gotta work hard, we gotta put in the work to get paid well and play hard. And that is what the Atlanta Falcons offense is largely going to be looking for in 2025. And that could make it a really special offense with all the talent that we have. Another thing that is going to largely contribute to the success of the Atlanta Falcons in 2025 and what could make the Atlanta Falcons a special ball club in 2025 is, for the first time in I don't even know how long, the Atlanta Falcons finally did what they needed to do in the NFL draft. They went out and they got, probably, in my opinion, the steal of the draft in Jalen Walker. I do not know how he fell to 15. He is a guy who I always wanted, but I did not think was going to make out of the top 10. I do not know why Carolina didn't take him. I don't know why the Aints didn't take him. But the fact that he fell to us at 15 was truly, I think, for the first time in a while, something actually falling right for the Falcons in the draft and everyone being happy. And then not just that, we double dipped. Terry got aggressive. He made a call to the LA Rams, and he traded our first round pick from next year and decided to use it this year, picking James Pierce Jr., edge rusher out of Tennessee. So he double dipped. He knew he had to address that, and he sure did. And then not just that, third round pick, number 96 overall, he picks Xavier Watts out of Notre Dame, who is going to be starting, if not week 1, really early on in this season. He also goes and gets Billy Bowman Jr. out of Oklahoma, who very well could be starting in the nickel at some point this season. So you're looking at potentially 4 starters out of this draft. And what do we know about the Kansas Cities, the Detroits, the Phillies? Yes, they may go use free agency to get that one guy like Philly did with Saquon Barkley to put them over the top. But in large part, they're built through the draft. That Philly defense, the Philly Dogs, they were built through the draft. Kansas City was built through the draft. Detroit, in many aspects, was built through the draft. The successful teams in this league, the teams that stay relevant long term, they build in the draft, and they just use free agency to really replenish the roster. Because let's be honest, every team's going to have a need to replenish their rosters where they need some shoring up at. But the infrastructure, the foundation of teams is built through the draft. And it is about time that the Atlanta Falcons finally went and addressed that defense this offseason, because we have been talking about for a long time. It doesn't matter what you do. You got to draft defense. You have to draft the defense. And if you don't, things are going to stay the same. It felt like a different message being sent during the draft from the Atlanta Falcons. That yes, they know that they have to get this right, and they're going to make every effort to do so. And when you're looking at a guy like Jalen Walker, who could very well win Defensive Rookie of the Year, is just adding him, I think, to the fold alone is a difference maker for this defense. But then when you add James Pierce Jr. too, and you're talking about basically 2 pass rushers in one draft in the first round, and you can pretty much guarantee that between the two of them, you're getting 10 sacks. And let me go ahead and tell you, if you are getting, and you can play the numbers all you want, if you're getting at least 10 sacks out of your rookie pass rushers, and then you also factor in a Braylon Trice, who this is pretty much his rookie year too, even though he isn't a first round pick. He was picked in the 3rd round. You pretty much have 3 rookie pass rushers if you want to look at it. So you are going to get a very big infusion of youth in the defense this year from Braylon Trice, and then obviously Jalen Walker and James Pierce Jr. And it's going to be, and I'm telling you, it could very well be a X factor in seeing the difference in this Atlanta Falcons defense. And speaking of which, another thing, and I feel like this is very important, maybe just as important as the play of Michael Penix, could be the development of some of these guys that we see on defense. And I'm talking about Rukaroro, Brandon Dorless, Zach Harrison. These are all guys entering year 2, year 3 that need to come out and really show something this year. And especially with Grady Jarrett leaving this offseason, going and signing with the Chicago Bears, we need somebody to really step up. And I think the main guy we're looking at is the guy who, in the 2024 draft, was our 2nd round pick after we drafted Michael Penix in the 1st round, is Rukaroro. And he's a guy I would maybe even like to dive into deeper pretty soon as we approach the season. However, it's going to be the development of these guys. And I want to familiarize y'all with a name, because obviously the Falcons hired Jeff Ulbrich this offseason to be a defensive coordinator. Jeff Ulbrich has very much a attack style with his front. He's going to very much attack rushing 4. And he is also, he is a former NFL linebacker himself. I know we can say a lot about Jeff Ulbrich, but he has played the game, whereas Jimmy Lake is really more of a college coach, really more fit for that college style. Jeff Ulbrich has played in the NFL. Jeff Ulbrich has been a defensive coordinator with the New York Jets under Robert Saleh, learning a lot from him. And that Jets defense was not what was holding that team back. It was the play at quarterback, and kind of sounds familiar to the situation we've been in the past few seasons. With that being said, Jeff Ulbrich brought in a new defensive staff, and there's a guy I want to familiarize y'all on that staff with. His name is Nate Ollie. He is the defensive line coach. He is going to be very key in the development of Rukaroro, Brandon Dorless, Zach Harrison, all these guys that we really need to see something out of this season. And the way that Nate Ollie talks about wanting to attack the quarterback, wanting to really just get after the quarterback, and he's basically just going to let these guys roam loose. I'm really encouraged to hear it because it feels like it hasn't necessarily been something. It feels like we've been asking guys on the front of our defense to even drop back in coverage like we saw sometimes last year. Whereas this year, it really does feel like we're going to put trust into A.J. Terrell, into Jesse Bates in that backfield of the secondary. And we're just going to let those guys up front go up and attack. And that's what we got to do, because there is potential. There is potential with a guy like Zach Harrison, and we've seen it. Rukaroro, he is a project, but he is a guy that really I think we do need to step up, because I feel like the one glaring hole on this defense might be the interior defensive line, and we probably do need a guy like Rook to step up, and that's kind of one of the big things that makes me nervous about the Falcons this year. And we do still have David Onyemata here, and I feel like this is a system that could fit him better than the Jimmy Lake system and allow him more opportunities to disrupt, put him in more of his comfort zone. But even still, we really need to, if we're going to be a special football team this year, it's going to be because some of these young guys, they took a step forward. I'm not talking about superstars. I'm not even talking about Pro Bowl selections, but I'm talking about doing your job, having your names called more, making a presence known, really taking those leaps and bounds upwards this season. And the final thing I really kind of want to talk about that I feel like could make the Falcons special is really a wide open NFC. Now, the Philadelphia Eagles, the Detroit Lions, have kind of been the class of the NFC the past few seasons. We saw a team like Washington really step up last year and make a run to the NFC Championship game. Obviously, your Green Bays are always going to be there, teams like that. The Rams, and I'm going to be honest. I'm just going to go ahead and say it. I feel like Philadelphia is still going to be a great ball club. Saquon Barkley's not rushing for 2,000 yards again. And Philadelphia will take a step back. I don't think it's going to be a large step back, but they will take a step back. And I do feel like that could present an opportunity for the NFC to become open. And when I look at the Falcons' schedule, it is by no means an easy schedule, but I do believe it is opportunistic for the Falcons. If the Falcons are going to put together a team that we can all remember in 2025, and I'm not talking about, obviously, we would love to see that team playing in San Francisco in February, hoisting the Lombardi Trophy. But if we could just get a team that is competitive all season, wins us a lot of games, and is capable of making a deep run in the playoffs, I really feel like that's where the Falcons do have the pieces to do it. But it's about it coming together. And these 5 things coming together are going to be key to it. But when you look at the Falcons schedule, first 4 weeks, home versus Tampa, Sunday night at Minnesota, at Carolina, at home versus Washington, or at Washington last year. And then week 5, you have a bye week. An early bye week, I'm not necessarily a big fan of, just because I feel like you could use that later in the year. Then you look coming out of the bye, you have at home versus Buffalo on Monday night. That's probably our toughest game all season, at San Francisco on Sunday night. But then kind of after that, you get the Dolphins at home, you're at New England, and I think New England's going to be improved. But then you have the Colts. It's in Germany, but you do have the Colts, Carolina at home, Saints on the road, Jets on the road, Seattle at home, a very big Thursday night game late in the season versus Tampa, at Arizona, and then you close out the year with 2 home games, a Monday night game versus the Rams, which could also be really big for playoff implications, and then closing out the year versus the Saints. It is by no stretch of the imagination easy, but it's opportunistic, and the Falcons are going to get opportunities in the schedule to really prove themselves. So if the Falcons come out this season and are a special team, we're going to know they're a special team, because they're going to have to go out and they're going to have to beat some competition. They're going to have to beat Tampa and compete with Tampa. They're going to have to beat an improved Carolina team. They're going to have a big game against the Rams. We have 5 primetime games this year. We're going to have opportunities to make a name for ourselves. It's just a matter of actually doing it at this point in time. With all that being said, appreciate everyone for watching this video. Appreciate you all for watching the channel. And listen, it is football season. Football is coming up. More content is going to be coming out. Preseason, we're only like 2-3 weeks away from preseason at this point, which It's kind of crazy to believe, but it's almost here again. It's an exciting time of the year. And with all that being said, I will see you all in the next video. Please subscribe and thank you for watching.